you for choosing Mackie Design's innovative Digital 8-bus mixer. This video is intended to help you set up and begin using your console. It is not intended to replace either the Quick Start Guide or owner's manuals. We know you're eager to use your Digital 8-bus and would like to tear into things immediately, but please take the time now to unpack your Digital 8-bus carefully, making sure that everything is there. You've already removed the outer sleeves and opened the boxes, or you would not be watching this video. In the same inner box with this video, you'll find your Digital 8-bus binder. It contains the Quick Start Guide, owner's manual, registration card, which you should send in as soon as possible, backup Mackie real-time OS discs, and other important papers, including decorative stickers, suitable for placing in prominent places. In the second Digital 8-bus inner box, you'll find detachable line cord, the data cable that connects the Digital 8-bus console with the remote CPU, rubber footies, and a dual-port MIDI jack. In the remote CPU box, you'll find the Digital 8-bus remote CPU with an attached power connection cable. The huge cable is buried in a secret cardboard maze below the CPU. We recommend that you get a friend to help you remove the Digital 8-bus console from its packing box. Set the console on a level surface and remove the plastic protective covering. Next, place the CPU as close as possible to the console. You'll probably want to rack mount it, but since this is a low-budget video, we're just putting it next to the Digital 8-bus. Please use your imagination where applicable. Important! Never connect or disconnect anything except microphone or line level inputs while the console is powered up. There are at least 7 important Digital 8-bus hardware connections, and that doesn't include the final power connection. That's because we don't want you to power up the Digital 8-bus until all of the hardware connections have been made. First, connect the CPU data cable from the remote CPU to the back of the Digital 8-bus console. Turn the 2 thumb screws finger tight on each end of the cable to secure it in place. The remote CPU has connections for a keyboard, mouse, and video monitor. These are optional, but we recommend using them to get the most out of your new Digital 8-bus console. Plug a PC-compatible keyboard into the keyboard port on the back of the remote CPU. Plug a PS2-compatible mouse into the mouse port on the back of the remote CPU. The Digital 8-bus includes its own video output for an SVGA monitor. It must be at least 72 Hz scan rate. We recommend a 17-inch or larger monitor for best results. Plug the SVGA monitor into the back of the CPU. On the back of the Digital 8-bus console, connect your active loudspeakers directly or your monitor amplifier's inputs. There are connections for 2 sets of monitors, near field and mains. We'll use near fields for this example. On the back of the CPU, plug in the dual-port MIDI socket. It has both MIDI in and out sockets on it. Connect these to the MIDI in and out on your record deck or its external synchronization device, where applicable. Out goes to in, and in goes to out. Strange, isn't it? Note, depending on your recording deck type, you may need to match your device ID with that of the Digital 8-bus software. Please consult the Digital 8-bus owner's manual or your recorder's manual for proper settings. You've probably purchased optional input, output, or effects cards for your Digital 8-bus. If they weren't installed by your Mackie dealer, now is the time to install them. Locate the card cage on the back of the Digital 8-bus console. Note that I/O and FX cards are to be installed in different slots, which are clearly labeled for your convenience. To install effects cards, first remove the card slot cover by loosening the 4 spring-loaded screws. Effects cards must be installed in order. That is, the first effects card goes into the slot marked A, the second in slot B, and so on. Slide the card, with the components on the circuit board facing to the left, into the appropriate card guide. Slide the card in carefully until it is firmly seated. You'll feel it click into place. Replace the cover plate and hand tighten the screws. Do not use a screwdriver, as over-tightening the screws may strip the threads on the console. I/O cards are also installed in order. The first I/O card goes into the slot marked tape 1 to 8, the second in the slot marked tape 9 to 16, and the third in tape 17 to 24. Duh. Using a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, unscrew the blank cover plate corresponding to the I/O card slot you want to fill. Holding the I/O card so that the components on the circuit board face to the left, slide it into the card guide firmly until it clicks into place. Secure it by hand with the 2 thumb screws. We will now show both analog and digital connections between the digital 8 bus and a recording deck. For analog card connections on the back of the digital 8 bus, plug 25-pin D-sub audio connectors into the from tape and 2 tape sockets for channels 1 through 8, and repeat as necessary. The connection on the other end of the D-sub will depend on your recording deck. It could be an Elco, quarter-inch, RCA, XLR, another 25-pin D-sub, or a 3/4-inch diameter garden hose. Remember, in goes to out and out to in. For digital I/O cards, use the appropriate connection for your recording deck, either light pipe cables or 25-pin for T-diff. If you use T-diff, also hook up the BNC connection to your deck for synchronization. Consult your manual and the instructions included with each card for specific hookup diagrams and software setup. Now we're almost ready for power up. Plug the huge industrial connector we call Big Daddy into the massive, gaping hole in the back of the console. Finally, plug the detachable line cord from the digital 8 bus external CPU into a power socket. You're finally ready to actually power up your new digital 8 bus. But first, take a break. Relax, walk the dog, enjoy your favorite beverage. Read the Quick Start Guide section of your digital 8 bus manual and recheck all of your connections so far. Okay then, it's time to switch the digital 8 bus on. Press the power switch on the front of the external CPU. You should see the monitor screen and the VFD display showing that the Mackie real-time OS is loading, and the master fader will move to Unity position. If you're using a digital I/O card, you'll need to pause the tape here and do some software setups. See the section called General Setup in Chapter 3 of the Owner's Manual for full instructions. To configure digital I/O cards from the console, first, press the Digital I/O button in the Setup section. The Digital I/O Setup menu appears in the Fat Channel display. Then press the Select button below the Tape I/O card, Alt I/O card, or Stereo I/O you want to reconfigure. Next, press the Select button to scroll through the available options. When the option you want appears in a display, press the Select button below OK. Press the Digital I/O button to return to normal Fat Channel operation. To configure digital I/O cards from the screen, first click on the Setup button in the lower menu bar. The Setup dialog box opens. Next, click on the digital icon on the left side of the box. The digital dialog box opens. Click and hold on the box for the parameter you want to reconfigure. Drag down to the desired selection and then release to finalize your selection. Click on the Close button in the upper right corner of the dialog box to close the Setup dialog box, or click on the Setup button in the menu bar. Your mixer is now properly configured for your application. In this operation example, we have an 8-channel multi-track recorder hooked to digital or analog I/O card connection 1 through 8 for the to tape and from tape 1 through 8. Return signals from the recording deck will appear on channels 25 through 32. We have a pre-recorded stereo mix on channels 1 and 2. We're going to overdub a keyboard onto channels 3 and 4. Its line level outputs are connected to the 1/4-inch input jacks on channels 3 and 4. All of the following assignments, levels, and routing functions can be accessed from either the screen or on the console itself. We'll cover both methods. The Digital 8 bus has a flexible effects system that lets you load a wide range of effects, depending on what you need for your current project. In our example, we will load the standard Mackie effects into FX Card A, the card that's built into your console. To load effects from the console, press the Plugins button in the Setup section. Press the Select button under Card A. The console's VFD display will indicate Card A has no effects active. Change from None Active to Mackie Effects by pressing the second Select button. Then hit the Select button under Transmit. The VFD display will show the progress of the effects algorithms downloading. To load effects using a mouse and monitor, click the on-screen Setup box. Select Plugins. Pull down Mackie Effects from the Card A menu. And watch PD, the corporate chihuahua, load the card with Mackie's effects algorithms. A quick shortcut to open the Setup screen is to press the Control and 1 buttons on the console. Now, we are going to set an input level for the keyboard that we have hooked up to inputs on channels 3 and 4. Channels 3 and 4 mic switches should be in the up position. Faders should be all the way down. Because the input meters are pre-fader, you do not need channel faders up for this operation. Make sure the 1 to 24 bank button is lit. Set the source, in this case our keyboard, for the best signal to noise output level and watch the channel 3 and 4 meters as you play the keyboard. Adjust the trim knobs at the top of the channel strips for maximum resolution before clipping. Aim for a level near the fat bar on the meters. Under no circumstances should levels go into the red, or you will experience digital clipping, which is a very unpleasant sound. Next, bring up the channel 3 and 4 faders at or near unity gain while the keyboard is providing input signals. You may or may not hear any sound. Now, set the monitor speaker level using the control room section of the console. Make sure Master LR and Near Field are selected. While playing the keyboard, slowly rotate the V pot to achieve a comfortable listening level. Now you have a working input, proper level, and you can hear it. Now we need to monitor the source through your record deck. Even though the Digital 8 bus has 25 faders, it really has 72 channels, plus. The 24 faders provide control of 4 different banks. Bank 1, channels 1 to 24, is the tracking inputs. Bank 2, channels 25 to 48, is the tape returns. Bank 3, channels 49 to 72, is the effects and returns. Bank 4, masters, consist of 8 groups, 8 MIDI faders, and 8 bus masters. Now that input levels are set, we will be monitoring the returns of the recording deck instead of the channel inputs. To avoid double monitoring, you will need to turn off LR on channels 3 and 4. First, make sure that you've selected Bank 1, channels 1 to 24. Then press the Master LR button and the Assign buttons on 3 and 4 so that they are not lit. Next, arm tracks 3 and 4 with the Record Ready buttons on those channels, or directly on the record deck. Next, map the channels 3 and 4 outputs to tape outputs 3 and 4 by selecting the Tape Out pull-down menu on the screen and assigning the appropriate track number. Or, on the console, press the Route to Tape button and the Select button on channel 3 and the Assign button for the corresponding track. Make sure that the level going to the deck matches your board settings. Remember that the channel source fader does not set the tape out level. Instead, to change the tape out levels for these channels, push the Level to Tape button and adjust the channel strip V-pots to set the output to the record deck. We will be able to monitor the sound coming from the keyboard in the tape return bank. The listening level is now set by accessing Bank 2. If no signal is getting to Bank 2, make sure the tape deck is properly set for audio through. Adjust the faders for desired listening levels. Now the keyboard's output is going into the console, to the recording deck, and then back to the console for monitoring. To add effects to channels 3 and 4, select AUX 1 in the AUX Select section. The channel strip V-pots are now used to set AUX Send 1 levels. To turn up the send to the effects card, turn up the V-pot on the channels you wish to send. These levels will show on the screen in the form of little red bars in the AUX Send section. Now, press the channels 49 to 72 Bank Select button. Physical faders 1 through 16 set the stereo return level of AUXs 1 through 8. There are 2 effects returns for each internal effect. To hear your effects, bring up faders 1 and 2. FX 1 through 16 are mapped to faders 1 through 16. If you don't hear your effects, make sure they are assigned to the LR bus. You can switch V-pots to pan and pan the effects returns hard left and right for stereo imaging. Although you haven't done any automation yet, you have created a session. So that you don't have to redo all these steps, it's time to save your session. Hit the Save As button on the console, or select Save Session As in the File menu on screen, and name it by using the VFD section of the console, or with the keyboard. Press Save under the VFD display, or Enter or Return on your keyboard. You may now switch off the mixer. Switch off the power button on the external CPU. It's time to give the manual a serious reading.